Good evening, friends. Thank you, Chinmay, for introducing me that I have come in a different avatar. First, let me congratulate the organizers on the motto. That is, History Literature Festival is a platform that democratizes people's access to understanding of and engagement with history in its entirety. And sorry that I missed the morning session, but I was present yesterday, and I've been here since 2:30. So I could feel that entirety. And maybe first 10 minutes, you pardon me, this is maybe for the BITEC, but because I will be missing the BITEC, I thought I will record my response. As a historian, if I can count from my PhD days, it is 57 years. As I finished my master's in 68 and joined PhD in 1968. In 71, I started teaching. But as a musician, I started from 59, which is 66 years. I didn't realize at that time that we are going to reach a century, 21st century, in which the mantra is going to be multidisciplinary thinking and interdisciplinarity. In fact, the questions that came up yesterday, I thought I will make a brief response to them. And this experiment that I'm going to do, I will try to demonstrate that how historical thinking and the musical thought have to evolve together, which I'm trying to practice for the last maybe 20 years. So the questions which came, and probably that Aparna asked that question to us yesterday, without going into the intricacies of that, I am telling this mainly for the students. One presentation today was on historical imagination. This was the thing which was there earlier also. In a way, historical imagination, people were trained. And you know, this particular state saw one of the first professors who wrote on historiography. I am reminded of Professor T.K.V. That was a very popular book in this region and all over India as well. One problem people have to grapple with is that not only icons, but the past itself is being appropriated to legitimize the present. That creates a problem, which was not the case when we were students. Although it might have been happening, but not this much. So the narratives have something to do with building up that kind of a iconic status. And then when that is appropriated, if that is not relevant to a particular, say, dispensation, then that icon is removed from wherever it is. Second aspect, which came up in the presentation on freedom movement yesterday, I want to bring to the notice of the students Professor Thapper's book on dissent. So dissent has been there throughout history, as Professor Thapper writes. But whether it is to be projected as violence or non-violence, that is for the historian to do. So that will again depend on the archival kind of a thing. And I was really moved when the question of interdisciplinarity came from Professor Basant to a science panel. They don't have an answer. Now, as a dean, I have always wondered, and I have also shared with my colleagues, geography and geology should have come together long back. Social sciences, we were not able to handle those syllabi at all. It is almost 90% it is science. Only 10% it is geography. Now, why I am saying this is that each discipline has evolved and the nature of discipline has actually been changing, and it is changed. In history, if I have to give an example, Arthur Marwick, he himself wrote first Nature of History, and then he had to revise New Nature of History. But we have moved further on. But what has really happened since then is what is important. We are living in a knowledge society. Until Abdul Kalam wrote that Vision 2020, not many people talked about knowledge economy. But now we are talking about knowledge society. So even the kind of, even in the vocabulary, knowledge production came how many times in that presentation? Just preceded opium trade. So knowledge production, not only now, throughout history, how it was produced. Now that determines the nature of historiography. In that sense, because 3-4 students, after this session, I was waiting for the car. Undergraduate students were interested. That's why I'm taking your 5 minutes. So one thing, after being in the profession for so many years, I want to make 2-3 statements. One major change, we don't ask any longer the question, what is history? We had demonstration of who is history for. That is a major change, number one. The second thing, which I have been experiencing, is all our thoughts, knowledge production, was within the framework of political economy. But now, towards end of 20th century and beginning of 20th century, the move is towards political culture. Say, for example, Eaton's book. See, you have a section, cultural production in the age of gunpowder. The very expression cultural production, where did it actually come from? It came from Germany, from the Frankfurt School. In fact, Theodor Adorno. So everything has a kind of a context. And when music enters market relations, or when music moves from private sphere to public sphere, there are changes. So every discipline has to adjust itself to the demands of the time, knowledge society. So for the benefit of students, I would like to say, when I started research, my teacher, Professor N. Subramanian, people might have Sangam Polity famous. He was the one who taught us a historian has 3 roles to play. That of the police, the bar, and the bench. So that was the practice of history in 68. All eluding facts have to be brought on the table by, like a policeman, like a detective, like you had. Then like a lawyer, you argue for and against. Until then, there is no problem for a historian. Only when value judgment comes and you make a narrative, the problem comes. Only when you become a judge, somebody will question your judgment. Facts is the stage we started. So that's why consciously I made a response yesterday. Facts are not sacrosanct any longer. Facts are in the back burner. What happened? We moved from facts to data. Some of the universities, like Delhi, we have a faculty of social science. For history to become a science or a social science, certain things were required. Say, I am reminded of Professor R.S. Sharma, General President's address, 1975. No theory, no history. No production, no history. No surplus, no history. He had a very cryptic way of putting things on the practice of use of Marxism as an instrument of analysis. And then Professor Grewal, exactly 10 years later, added no culture, no history. So the change has to be kept in mind. And the only thing that I would like to make here is we are no longer concerned with facts in our practice at the level, highest level. Even data that has been, in our case, Professor Noburu Karashima used the computer generated data. Shireen Musbi applied the statistical method. Everything has been tried. But today's historian has to handle information. That's all. We have passed through an age of information. We have come to a stage of knowledge society. And how a historian handles information, it is the historical method. I think Dr. Raghavan gave the right answer. Historical method is what we are practicing as historians, and the way we handle information and the no culture, no history thing has come in. We started with Professor Pant's moderated food culture. I am going to speak on music culture. This is a kind of a preamble that this is also culture. This is music culture of India or music culture of the world. It is in that spirit that I would like to proceed. So, next, interdisciplinarity. How do we bring in? See, there is tall talk. National educational policy also aims at it. I was in the NCRT for 3 years in the administrative committee. There was no evidence of any attempt to promote. I'm not afraid. See, I have nothing to worry. I speak my mind. I've been doing it always. Here also I will do it. So national educational policy, interdisciplinarity, you can't escape. But how does one implement? Has anyone shown the way? If it is happening in the case of science that it is not happening, how will it happen in social sciences? So in fact, there is a very strong criticism by one Bill Readings, which I have quoted in my Nurul Hasan Memorial Lecture, Interdisciplinarity, Music, History and the Tamils. In fact, this is a kind of a follow-up of that. Universities in ruins. He is actually criticizing culture studies. Is it going to save social sciences? Well, people have been critical. And he gives a very beautiful explanation. Interdisciplinary practices so far have produced epistemological anarchy. I'm just quoting him. But anyhow, this is at the level history as a discipline is being discussed. Now let us come to the topic because we are having very limited time. How to bring in here that I consciously tried to cultivate. That cultivation is this deliberation of this drum is deliberate. And yesterday she mentioned it is a national instrument. Among our normal thinking, we call it Rajavadyam. It's called Rajavadyam. And one small correction here, the drum and its language. It's not in plural. The drum and its language. The drum speaks a language. It speaks a meta language. So another idea that just struck me, had you asked me, why was I drawn to Mridangam when I was young? Anyone who is interested in rhythm is attracted. But now I will give a loaded answer. Having gone through all these 50 years of the other discipline, I will give a loaded answer. It is absolutely secular. Because the language, if you sing in English, it will also sing in English. If you sing in Tamil, it will also sing in Tamil. If you sing in Kannada, it will also sing in Kannada. So in that sense of the language, the drum speaks a language of its own. And you don't associate with history. You do associate it with music. So what is important for a historian now is to identify an object of historical study. Identify an object of historical study, generate information on that wherever it is available, reconfigure them, thinking it historically and musically. This is a simple explanation I think I can share with you, which I have been practicing. So now other things are general. Any object capable of producing sound is a potential musical instrument. Interestingly, if you refer to Oxford history, the root of the term drum is trump. Kindly check. The root of the term drum is actually trump. So now coming to the, in order to save time, in musical, you have to have adequate knowledge of music also. Unless you are a master of two disciplines, interdisciplinarity cannot be practiced, attempted. 3 disciplines. So I think I have the credentials, fairly familiar. If I have been in a profession for 57 years, I think the profession has tolerated me. If I could accompany people for 66 years, they have also found something in me. So that way, I think I have the capacity to think about it. So now, thinking musically, yesterday a friend was telling about instruments. See, when it comes to instruments, minimum qualification for in India, or any civilization, music culture for example, in India we use 3 expressions always together. Geetam, Vadyam, Nrityam. See, even if you go to Dikshadar's composition, while talking about the deity, he will say, Geeta, Vadya, Natana, Nataka, Priya. So Geetam explains. Natanam explains. Vadyam is always the drum. Or in other words, the song, the dance, and the drum. So now the drums. You can go into the history of it. In India, yesterday I was also talking to another archaeology friend. The early cave paintings or pictorial representations, first we come across in Moravia. Since my friend Ravi is here, I thought that we have tried to collect some information on this. Moravia records 5000 or 4800 BC. Second comes Sumerian drums. This is about 3000 BC. Then comes Egyptian drums, 1800 BC. And last, China, I think about 1135 BC. Drum very simply means a cavity and a membrane stretched over it. It's the simplest drum. You will have representations in cylindrical drums, and then Alingya, people would have you have a lot of drums in our Helibid and other places. So you will also get that kind of a But in India, the traditional classification is called Avanada. It is called Avanada. So immediately we go to Natya Shastra. Natya Shastra mentions about 100 Avanada instruments in literature. The subclass is Pushkar or Pushkara. So, Avanada class mentions Mridanga. If you go by the term Mridanga, Mrit Anga. Mud, made of mud. So from mud to wood, now from wood to metal. So that evolution is separate. So these names can also confuse. Now what distinguishes this particular instrument and from evidences in India is the paste. You just try to show the black one, the black paste. This you are getting concrete evidences from 16th century. In fact, the first manuscript I came across is in Saraswati Mahal Library, maybe somewhere else, I don't know. Whatever I have seen, it is called the Muttukara Lakshanam. And now there is always a tendency, like even Professor Chinmay asked, popular culture and cinematic representation. I want to give you this expression from Tilana Monammal. Is there anyone from Tamil Nadu? You have seen Tilana Monammal? T.S. Palaya, who plays on the towel, contemptuously calling the Mridangi stuff Padmini, that is T.R. Ramachandran, called that Muttukara fellow. So these expressions have actually survived. Not only that, you also have what is the Lakshana, Nattuva Lakshanam, Muttukara Lakshanam, all these start coming in Tanjore court around 16th, 17th century. We get it in 16th century, it was perfected in 17th century. Next is a very important step. We are in Bangalore. The person who studied it was C.V. Ram. He wrote a paper in 1927, and I would like to just reproduce 2-3 sentences from that. Drums with sustained sound. Drums with sustained sound, distinctive controllable timbre. I hope I am answering other instruments. Why the importance to Mridangam? It's a study, scientific study also, by a physicist, Nobel laureate. I'm quoting from him. Drums with sustained sound, distinctive controllable timbre, and allowing definite pitching. So drums can be classified as pitched drums and unpitched drums. So that's why I was just telling him. He also tuned. It is C.V. Raman who said it is harmonic. So that's why we have developed an expression. Drums are generally beaten. We play. See, we play the instrument. Tabla is played. Mridangam is played. Pakavaj is played. Shivamani beats the drum. So can invest sound syllables. Now, it has got 7 sound syllables on which I am going to give a manuscript. Shota, please. I will introduce him when he goes on his solo. Now I am requesting him to show the syllables. So the language is built on the solfa syllables. But please remember, tabla is started with tajindinda. Ta. Ti, dum, nam, din, ta, cha, chap. The special sound is gum. So you repeat the 7 tonals. Thank you. Now, I'm borrowing the seriousness from Professor R. S. Sharma. He said, no theory, no history. I am saying, no theory, no music. I'm saying, no theory, no music. See, otherwise, there is no point music department should be in a university. We have to make it serious. So the foundation of musical theory in India is very complex. Because the way that we look at things and look at the treatises, the beliefs, etc., it's not wrong, but that's how it is. Foundation of musical theory in India has to be understood, this is my own definition, as a synthesis of a number of ideas, like divine origin, notion of transpersonal soul, the breath as living substance, prana, the special nature of the medium, akasa. See, there is silence. Sound can travel only in silence. It is called the unity of opposites, which is the hallmark of Egyptian civilization, which I taught for about 10 years in Delhi University when I joined. Life and death, Nile. So, akasa, sound and silence are unity of opposites. The efficacy of ritual action. And for the information of people, pot, which was played yesterday, it was a part of the ritual action as rituals were evolving. Dr. Karthik, another maestro of Ghatam, has done a PhD on Ghatam. He has listed all the Sanskrit references to Gata in ancient texts. Utterance as an aspect of worship, chant. In fact, in India, it is chanting to recitation and recitation to singing. The stages. That's how it has to be perceived. And a means of knowledge. Chant and a means of knowledge, stimulating power of heat energy, metaphoric identification of thought, breath, sound, worship, procreation as means of acting upon the world. The mythical association of sound and speech, walk. So that is why any text that you get, it will be shrouded in a kind of a mythological thing. That's what I'm going to now explain. So now, two more things I want to convey is, 4 constructs have to be kept in mind in musical theory. Akash Tattva and Prithvi Tattva. Operation of sound, Shabd to Swar. In music, they have explained all that. Shabda Brahmam to Nada Brahmam. By the time you come to Sangeeta Ratnakara, Nada Brahmam principle is very well established. And this is the third one, act of mere willing to expression. So thinking about sound is one thing, expressing it in singing and playing it on the mridangam. That is why the demo. As expressed by a maestro, which has an identity as a school within South Indian play, it is called the Pudukkottai school. He is the grand disciple of Palani Subramanian Pillai. And the authentication, I authenticate that this is exactly the kind of expressions that he played and conceived and played. There is no doubt about it. The Swar to Geet. Then Ashok Ranade, another prolific writer on music you must have heard. He says that these drums have to be seen in 6 situations. Are you dealing with a primitive drum? Are you dealing with a folk drum? Are you dealing with religious drum? Yesterday questions were coming. Religious. Are you dealing with art? Yes. This is art drum. This is associated with art. You find it in concerts. And popular. And the last one is confluence. So he has made 6 categories in which you can see. Those who are interested in knowing more about Dhwani, IGNCA has brought out a wonderful book. Okay? Anyone who is interested, you can refer. Dhwani, Nature and Culture of Sound, S.C. Malik edited, IGNCA 1999. Now this is for the background. So this much is necessary to evaluate a text. So now I am going to talk about a text, datable to 18th century. Because it's a collection from manuscript, there is no particular title. I would like to call it Art of Drumming. Or Principles of Art of Drumming, something like that. The text is in 2 parts. first part is about the physical structure of the drum. Second is on the patterns of play. See, what does it establish? The drum has evolved. Tyagaraja has referred to this drum and says, Sukha Sukha Mridanga Talam. People who are familiar with music, he is talking about this drum. He is not talking about Bhumi Tundipi. He is talking about the drum which has evolved, which was popular in Tanjore. That's how the contextuality comes. And second is on patterns, but all these are placed in mythological backdrop. So there is a cosmic conception, and there is a drum music. The four fundamental sounds. So -3, Tati, Dumna. Four fundamental sounds. You can increase the speed so that how to build up rhythm also you can do it. So now, at 3 levels we have demonstrated. Knowledge received textually, pedagogy perceived by gurus, practice passed on to. This is the transmission. Basic lessons. Now, we historians, we have another problem. We don't simplify, we complicate. So when we handle the text, we read so many things into it. So for example, one verse I will quote a little later. There is a subtle suggestion, the harmony of the male and female principles. So now I'm bringing it in gender. Can you bring gender here? Yes, you can. Swift tempo is male, and slow tempo is Parvati. So right is Shiva and left is Parvati, the dynamic and the static principle. That is how the text will explain. Then the music of the drum. I would like to give you a feel of at least some of the songs. So because there is no PowerPoint presentation, had there been a PowerPoint presentation, I would have been much more technical. Now I have thought about bringing it down so that at least the ideas convey. If it is a PowerPoint, all terms I would have put, I would be explaining each one of them. So now the first, I have made some rough translation. Mattalam ondru undu, this is Tamil. Mattalam ondru undu, Thalam irandu undu. When you get Thal, you have even numbers and you have odd numbers. And in Tamil tradition, it is called Matta Thalam and Saippu Thalam. Folk music always has fractional counts. And composed music, one is conscious about setting it in music. And Parvati is mentioned. Mattalam kotta vagai arivarillai, Mattalam kotta arivalagum, Mattalam kotti mahilda adinane. So it goes on like that. But 2 or 3 ideas which I want to give on the how it is a product of evolution. You may have a question. How are the earlier drums mentioned? How this is a product of evolution? There is an answer in this manuscript. How many holes are there on the, I should say right side, for you it's left side. 16. In Thevaram, it is only 8. So when you cross-check Gnanasamadar, Kattuvadam, Ettumuru, Vatta Modavatil, Kuttugaram, Otti, Tattum Vagai, Nandi. See, association with Nandi. And 8 holes. So this is how, and the expression is also Modavu. So the Tamil tradition has first Tannumai, second Moravu, third Mattalam, fourth Mridangam. So this Mridangam will not be, you won't get references earlier. So this is one that one has to keep in mind. Moravu, Tannumai, Mattalam. Up to 10th century, only these drums are mentioned. The second idea, and also shift from Nandi to Parvati, which gives scope for us to play. Not on the Mridangam, but on the ideas. Because it is mythological, each area is assigned with a god. That is, I will give the English translation to save time. Dwelling in on the left is Indra, on the right, Brahma. The Lord Immaculate, Thirumal, that is Vishnu, at the belly resides. The rice paste on is Uma, the sweet-tongued. Rudra, her heart's dear, is the whitish ash, therein mixed. The two in conjunction, blissful, born was the comely sound Na. So it talks about the origin of each one of the syllables. That's what I want. I intend writing a full paper, so I will only give a feel. So this is about the drum. Then it also talks about how it should be made, what should be the measurement, the physical aspects. Then the second aspect is the patterns of play. That is very, very important. And it gives, you give gum, so it makes a distinction. How it builds up on patterns. Ta, ti, domnam, they are all strokes, beaten. This is rubbing. You produce the sound. So it is rubbing. The sounds of beating on the right generated, they are in complement measured on, then thus to the delight of the humans come, the sound unformed, that of rubbing begot. So Tamil, it is very, very interesting. Tavvadi Vamam, Varudichol. That is, you are making it through this one. So then it goes on to talk about varieties of things. And then, lot of interpolations are there. Lot of, when it came in a published form, somebody published it. 19th century developments got appended. Like what the early history of Tamils, most of them were written from Silappatikaram commentaries which belong to a later period. So the first narrative is not on Silappatikaram text, but from the commentary. So these are the problems of writing history. I think I have given you a feel of what I am talking about. Now, I don't want to stand between you and the language of the drum. This is how the language is developed. He is Akshay. He is with a startup. He is a software engineer. And he has learned from the direct disciple of Pani Subramanian Pillai. So it is like Kumbakonam degree copy. Now, do you know, but if you travel on this one, yesterday I think Raghunathan mentioned, everyone wants the brand name. But what is exactly degree coffee? Lactometer used density. So the authenticity is actually conceived, perceived, expressed by Pani Subramanian Pillai. Now, over to Anand. Go ahead.
How much time do I have?
15 minutes.
Okay.
He is using, because it's a tunable drum, he is using Tanpura electronics and say, my usual joke is, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheswara stays. What is the next stage? Guru Tepo Maheswara, Guru CDO Maheswara, Guru MP3O Maheswara. Little bit of Skype has brought Sakshatkar. So you learn to the tape and then go and get it corrected. But this gentleman has been traveling from Madras, Bangalore to Madras for the last 15 years. And that is why I spotted him. It's an authentic Parani style. Easy.
Thank you. So I'll be performing for about 15 minutes. So I think Sir spoke about a little bit. There was a little bit touch up on talams. So I'll be performing for a cycle of 16 beats basically. It would be a 16 beat cycle. It's called Adi Talam. So I shall be performing for this.
Thank you, Akshay. So, the language was in full flow, but the text talks about even say give chap. There is a technical term for that. We call it colloquially chap, but in the play it is vettum kai shali. Vettum is this thing. Vettum kai shali. So like that, there are about 143 terms mentioned in that. Some of the prayoga are not in practice. That is because different kind of fingerings, different people teach, and then whichever suits. See, this particular style is called Pudukottai style. It was established by Dakshinamurthy Pillai, Palani Muttaya Pillai, Palani Subramanian Pillai, Tiruchi Shankaran, his guru Kalidas, now next generation. So we are able to see a certain kind of tradition, knowledge, pedagogy, practice, and a certain tradition, prayoga of that particular school only and constructions. It comes from the thought process. So for interdisciplinarity, historical thinking has to be there. It cannot be imagination. We handle information. Musical thought, we are interpreting through the medium. So history has to have an object of study. Generate information, historically think, apply the historical method, bring in the rigor of history into music also. That is my plea. I would like
Thank you so much, sir. I think in the interest of time, we'll have to unfortunately close the session now. So we can, of course, ask questions. You can come forward on the dais. Thank you so much for this wonderful tour, combining your two avatars of being a history professor and a musician. And thank you, Akshay, for a wonderful performance.
one more. I am also from Delhi University. We are 3 in a row today.
Yes, yes. I have been at the mercy of 3 Delhi University professors in quick succession. That's the end of day 2 of the History Literature Festival. He mentioned Mr. Pillai as the guru. Tomorrow's session starts with another Mr. Pillai, VOC Pillai of Swadeshi's team. We have a session on ships and planes first up, and then we have a session on women in Hindi cinema, followed by 3 more sessions later on in the day. So look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning. Thank you so much. We'd like to end this session by presenting our guests with stoles and mementos.